Hey, you guys. Uh, I'm here and I got something really important to tell you guys. And I know, as what's shown in the past few weeks here, most of you are ignoring me, could care less what I've got to say, uh, whatever. And that's okay because I care about you guys, right? That doesn't change anything. But some of you guys have, over the period of time, laughed at me, called me a conspiracy theorist, and whatever. Uh, First of all, I'll give you a challenge. Go to the dictionary and look up conspiracy or conspiracy theory, what the definition is. If you conspire to murder somebody, whether you do it yourself or you hire somebody, and you conspire to murder them, does that eliminate the conspiracy? You need to think about that because I don't mind you calling me a conspiracy theory because it's based on facts. And those of you that choose to call me or somebody else a conspiracy theorist, based on what? You want to talk crap? Let's see your proof. You're talking crap about me and saying I don't have any proof. I'm gonna put two guys on here today, top economists in the world. And if you know anything about finances, you know both these guys. Most of you don't. I'm not pointing my finger at you. I till I got involved, I didn't know a lot of these things either, but I do now. You know, but where you're coming from nowhere. Okay, so if you want to talk crap, go get educated and then come back and talk to me. But right now, what this is all about right now is this is about you guys getting your stuff together because uh, all the top predictors and these two guys I'm putting on today are gonna tell you, okay, this financial collapse is probably gonna happen before the end of the year. Most top experts are saying before October or by October. What that means to you, it means that when that happens, your money is going to become worthless. Zero. Okay? What that means to you is, and I'm talking from experience here, Shren and I, we don't have any. Our our financial situation turned over about 2.5 years ago, and we haven't been able to recover. Okay? We're dead in the water. We cannot do anything about our situation. So when it comes down, I don't know what's going to happen to us. Okay? But right now, you have money in the bank. You have money coming in because you're still working and so forth. And what you need to do, you need to pay attention because, like I told some of you guys, I know a lot of you guys I'm talking to right now. Haas, I've told a lot of you guys. I told you to get 30 days of drinking water, minimum. At least, you should have at least 3 months. And minimum 30 days, but probably at least 3 months of non-perishable foods, good foods with nutrients in them. Okay? And then when you see this coming down, you need to get the hell out of Dodge because this is going to get ugly. And Gerald Celente, towards the end of this video, he touches on it a little bit. But this thing with the racial, you know, it's all BS. But it's all being produced by the government. And ironically, in this case, it's Obama, and he's black, and he's creating this white and black issue, and it's kind of bleeding over into other ones. A lot of you guys out there are Indians. I've seen some of your posts out there, and they're racially motivated too. All that crap is to divide all of us, okay? So that we're just weaker, unable to fight back. And you all are falling, those of you that are doing this stuff, you're falling into it. We all need each other. And The sad part about it is that's not happening. Okay, so anyway, real quickly here, I got to do this faster. Uh, you need to put these things together because it's coming down and it's going to get ugly, and it's gonna tie in along a lot of this racial divide that's going on to start with. But then Obama's going to get his shot, and that's to bring in martial law. When martial law comes in, you guys, uh, it's going to get serious, and I hope that you guys are on the right side of that. I hope that you have or you find quickly a relationship with God and Jesus Christ, because this thing's this thing's really going in the toilet and it's going to get ugly. I mean, we're talking about massive deaths and everything. This isn't BS. I'm telling you what I know, and I've been following it now. I understand a lot of you people have been busy and probably should have, but you didn't. That's all of us. We all do that. Okay? But I'm telling you now. And you can ignore it all you want or whatever you want to do with it. But this, very possibly for me, this is the last time that I'm going to have to warn you guys. I don't know what else to say about it. I love you guys. You need to get ready. And I'm sorry that more of you didn't care about Shren and I to help us, but that's beside the point. I'm here. I'm trying to help you guys. Hear me. Hear these guys I'm putting on, and do something before it's too late. All right? Love you guys. Take care. Bye.
But on this battlefield, no one wins. We have a war with Russia, a war with China. Nobody wins. That's why we don't have big wars anymore between superpowers, because it would end the planet, not just humanity. In the last 15 minutes or so, we'll take a few questions at 800-259-9231 for Mr. Dent. Okay, Mr. Crystal Ball, here we are. Now we've gotten closer to it. I'm sure you've got more of an electron microscope view of this. What in Hades is going on?
Well, you know, Alex, the biggest thing since we last talked, China's bubble in stocks finally burst. It means nothing when a stock bubble bursts 10% or 20%. That can just be an ordinary correction. 35% in a little over 3 weeks. And how much would it have been if the government had not come in with a $500 billion fund to buy their own stocks? And this came after the government in China had been buying empty real estate to prop up that market that's been falling. And after they created the greatest bubble in history by moving 500 million people, low-skilled people, from rural areas to urban areas in the shortest period of time in history, China is the greatest bubble in history. It is finally coming unraveled. That's why I am confident that we are within, I'd say, weeks of the global bubble bursting again. China was the first thing, actually before that in March. Germany, the leading market in Europe, looked like it peaked to me. And then the China crash in late May, in end of July. And now I think the US markets are going to start heading down by early September, probably peaking in the next week or two. So I think this is happening. And the other big factor is that, and I don't get why the oil markets don't totally get this, in the stock markets, oil keeps dropping.
You predicted 3 years ago that when we hit the cliff, oil would go to 40. Now it looks like it's worse than you say. Bloomberg's talking about $30 crude.
Yeah, I've been talking for years about 10 to 20 down the road. I think we're going to see $32 in the next few months. And what that says is, and again, the markets still don't fully get this because everybody's thinking oil's going to come back to 70, 80. The fracking industry, a $1 trillion industry that's created hundreds of thousands of jobs, directly and indirectly, $600 billion in junk bonds and highly leveraged debt. This industry is going to be dead. It's a bubble industry. It's a high
The
cost.
debts, because I know, because a lot of folks in Texas are involved, the debts are all coming due. By next year, it's all bankrupt. Could that be the detonator in the U.S. sector?
Yes, exactly. I think China is the detonator for the global markets in the world because it's the biggest bubble, and it's kind of like Japan in the early 90s cracking. But for the United States, I think the first debt bubble to crack will be these frackers. And when they start defaulting, jump bond rates will go up for other high-risk borrowers, and then you get a whole thing like the subprime crisis in 2008. There was only 4 states that had a big subprime problem and underwater households, and it triggered a global downturn. That's what happens. You're too much in debt. All it takes is a trigger. It's not that the subprime crisis was the biggest trend. It's that the whole world was too much in debt. Demographics were starting to decline, as we predicted for years. And this whole thing has only been kept together since 2008, when it started to crash last time, by endless money printing.
Sure. I mean, you've documented the problem. You've been 100% dead on. It's frightening. What happens next now that you're closer? You said till we got real close, you couldn't, break down with the trends exactly how it might unravel. Are you close enough now to tell us? You say within weeks. I mean, how bad? How does it cascade? Is it a big bust or is it an unraveling? What do you see happening?
Well, first of all, our overall picture has been that, we've seen higher highs in every boom and bubble, again in 2000, and then again in 2007, and then 2015 now. Every crash has taken us to lower lows. We're seeing that we're going to go from a Dow recently of 18,300. We might get a little higher than that, I doubt it, but down to 5,500 to 6,000. That's a bigger crash than we had last time, the largest crash since the Great Depression.
Wow. And then we've got all these other economic things happening. You talked about Europe. You talked about the EU. You talked about Greece defaulting. Looking at Europe, how does that play into all this? Then we've got Obamacare hitting. That's like a wet blanket on the economy. We've got Obama taxes just wrecking everything. I mean, it looks like Washington is trying to put the country into a cardiac arrest.
Well, again, what governments are really doing, they created this bubble in the first place. They overstimulated. They pushed interest rates artificially low. And then when the whole thing started unraveling in 2008, they started printing money out of nowhere. Like $10 trillion around the world, $4 trillion just in the United States, just to keep the economy from collapsing and the banking system from collapsing. But they created the bubble in the first place. So they're just covering up is what they're doing. And you can see China's situation keeps getting worse. They do X, then they do Y, then they do Z, but then they have to do another thing. It's because they're failing. You cannot keep a bubble going forever.
Sure.
And China is the largest in history, but Europe has its bubble, and they keep trying to stimulate. The U.S. has our bubble. We keep trying to stimulate. This thing's going to come apart. I think, Alex, when I look at history, when you do have major crashes, it is September and early to mid-October when the first crashes usually hit the hardest and strongest. So I'm telling people this market may have a week or two left. I would not be in stock after August 25th.
Okay, when we come back, I want to get your view on, and I know you've predicted with incredible accuracy. You don't like to get down into little micro stuff because it's impossible, but in your gut, what you expect this fall to be like, what you expect Christmas to be like. Elites separately, I know, are moving to like countryside redoubts. They're acting scared. And I've seen this building for years. They all know, like you said, they've been covering it up. I mean, they know what's going on. They just won't tell people. And then what's going to happen when the bottom falls out, geopolitically, but also domestically with the unrest? I know you've got charts on that at harrydent.com. Folks, this is invaluable information. We wish it wasn't true, but isn't it good to know a hurricane's coming and to have radar? In the old days, they didn't know. So it's positive that we're telling you a Category 5 hurricane is coming in. So that's a good question. What do you expect them to respond to this with, looking at what China's done, adding a chainsaw to their juggling act now?
Well, yeah, China's done it. China keeps responding with more stimulus measures, more fight the bubble bursting. The U.S. has been doing this in Europe since 2008. Everything governments have done around the world have been to fight this bubble from bursting. Nobody's written down hardly any loans. What you have to do when a bank or banks or financial institutions lend too much money to bad creditors, that they should have to write those loans down and take losses, and their shareholders should have to take those losses. Nobody's allowing that to happen. Instead, the everyday person is paying for this with declining wages, and the rich are making more money than ever because money is free. They've had to make money free to stop this crisis. Zero short-term interest rates, zero.
And they get first access to it and then loan it out.
Yeah, and well, actually, what happens is these financial institutions, the way they're surviving, they're not lending money to small businesses and everyday people. They are speculating in markets that are rigged to go up by the government.
Sure. And I asked it earlier, but I want to talk about a few minutes and go to some phone calls here, specifically zeroing in on what you think is going to start happening in 2 weeks, and then what some of the other triggers could be and how this could look. Because major university studies estimate 7 million people died during the 10-year Great Depression from association of malnutrition and diseases from the collapse. And we had 90% of people being rural, most of them self-sufficient, and we had 7 million people starve to death or die as complications from malnutrition. Now, if things go belly up, and we got a lot of hardworking Americans, but we got a lot of spoiled brats, too. And this whole entitlement society and Hollywood pushing, you know, gangster culture and all the rest of it. I mean, I look around me, and it scares the daylights out of me to think about what a hardcore depression will look like in this country.
Yeah, I mean, there's more political polarization than I've ever seen in U.S. history. There's more extreme inequality than we've seen since the late 1920s. This cannot end well. A lot of people are going to blame each other when this happens, and nobody's going to be totally true about that, but they're going to blame each other, and people are not going to be happy. And I tell you, if you think it's going to be bad here, don't even imagine being in China when the biggest urban migration in history falls apart, and these people can't even go back to their rice paddies because they've been paved over with empty condominiums. It just, so I think people like really need to hunker down and say, look, I mean, and I don't even know how bad this can get on the civil level. I just see that it's not just going to be a financial collapse. There are going to be civil problems, and you need to live in a safe place. You need to protect yourself in just very basic ways, not just your investments. And just say, how can I be as safe as possible if the world kind of melts down? And
Gerald, you were getting into something very important as we hit that break. In summation, you say you see us hitting a major bump in the road by the end of the year. A lot of folks are saying that now. I hope you're wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But the indicators are there. Ron Paul's saying it. How long can this go on? And how? What's the main scenario you see?
Well, when we're talking about the racial divide, that's going to really pit people against each other. So it's going to become very ugly unless we have somebody that's leading us that brings morality back into the show. And, you know, Ron Paul was the last person that was out there that was really doing anything across the board of making something like that happen. And I just don't see that happening now. So the racial divide will worsen. You're going to have a lot of social unrest, and it's global. As I said, there were 500,000 people yesterday in Brazil. It's happening all over the world. So they're going to divide and conquer is going to be the scenario. Oh, and you mentioned about Homeland Security. I believe the head of that is a black person, too. So how about that for a racist country? You know, we got a guy like that arresting little kids for fart.
Well, it turns out Nancy Pelosi has her staff out running this, even in D.C., who lives in the lap of luxury. I mean, imagine you're just pulling out in your car and people surround you chanting at you because you're white. Don't they understand that's the opposite of what Martin Luther King said? They have no idea what you stand for, but it's because you're white, you must have done something because MSNBC said so?
Again, that's the way they're selling it. So there's a divide and conquer. It's going to be a very difficult time coming. And again, as you know, Alex, we're launching Occupy Peace over here in Colonial Kingston. And here's the photo. But it's more than just peace overseas. It's to stop this mindset. It's to bring peace back to the United States. That's why it's occupypeace.us. because if we don't have it, we're going to lose it. And we're doing everything we can to make that happen because they're just dividing us more and more.
Okay, guys, I'm just back for a second, and I hope you learned something. I hope you heard. I hope you do something to help your family and your loved ones, okay? And it's like I said, you know, Shren and I are, at this point, we're screwed. We don't have the ability to stockpile anything. So if any of you feel the urge to help us, we would accept the help because we've got no way to buy any extra water or any kind of extra food or anything like that at this point. So my biggest concern wasn't to say this, but my biggest concern was to make sure that you guys don't get stuck in a situation like this. And like I think that you can gather here, this here is right around the corner, you guys. You have to prepare, right? Take care. I love you guys. Bye.